Hello, my name is Andrew, you can call me Cookies, and today we are taking a look at each of the boss encounters within the Necrotic Wake dungeon and figuring out how to handle them as a healer. First up is Blightbone. In this fight, you'll want to heal players who are targeted by Heaving Wretch, which will deal a moderate amount of unavoidable damage up front, apply a disease which continues to damage the player struck over the next 12 seconds, and will spawn 3 Carrion Worm adds. These adds will need to be locked down with slows, stuns, and other crowd control so that they do not reach the players that they fixate to. If they reach the fixated player, they will deal a heavy amount of damage to them with Blood Gorge, and after 3 successful hits against a fixated player, the worm will explode, applying a lethal damage over time effect to all players in the group. Aside from this, be sure that you help the tank survive when the boss uses Crunch, which will deal a moderate amount of damage instantly. Next up in the Necrotic Wake, we have a Marth, the Harvester, who summons various adds which need to be dealt with while avoiding a few mechanics the boss casts himself. Reanimated mages are the most important to focus attention on, as they will deal heavy damage to all players if their Frostbolt volley is not interrupted. Reanimated crossbowmen will shoot random players for a moderate amount of damage, so be sure that players are staying topped off during this phase to avoid any random deaths. Aside from dealing with adds and avoidable mechanics, you'll want to be sure to put a lot of healing into the tank when the boss enrages with Unholy Frenzy, which will increase his attack speed by 50% for 16 seconds. Surgeon Stitchflesh is the next boss we will be put up against. This fight begins with you fighting Stitchflesh's creation, which will cast 2 important abilities. Mutilate will deal heavy amount of damage to the tank, and Meat Hook will target a random player in the group which needs to be aimed towards Stitchflesh, who is standing on the platform nearby. Aside from this, you'll need to heal players who are affected by Stitch Needle, which is a bleed that deals a moderate amount of damage over 10 seconds. Once Stitchflesh is pulled from his platform, be mindful of the additional damage that the tank will take from Sever Flesh, which is cast by Stitchflesh. This ability can overlap with the Creation's Mutilate cast for a near lethal amount of damage to the tank, so be prepared to use externals and cooldowns if necessary. The final boss within the instance is now Thor the Rhinebinder. In this fight, you'll want to avoid Comet Storm cast by continuing to move for the duration of the cast, and healing the group during Icebound Aegis, which will put an Absorb Shield on the boss, and until broken, pulses every 3 seconds for a moderate amount of damage to all players. The major mechanic we need to understand as a healer in this fight is Frozen Binds, which immobilizes a random player and deals a moderate amount of damage to them every 2 seconds until they are dispelled. The trick here is to wait until all other players in the group are outside of the indicated zone that is surrounding the immobilized player, and then dispel them. Otherwise, it will apply Frozen Binds to all players that were inside of the zone when you dispelled it. The only other thing to keep in mind is the consistent damage your tank will be taking from Icy Shard, which the boss will cast in between his major mechanics. And that covers all the bosses within the Necrotic Wake. Like the video if you found it useful, and comment below to let me know which boss you enjoyed healing the most. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good day.